Report in the newspaper today states that Andy Burnham could ditch the 15 years that migrants will have to wait before they get indefinite leave to remain when he becomes the PM in a few weeks' time. We know that Andy Burnham has consistently voiced support for migrants. Even here, he argued that migrants should be given access to benefit when they arrive in the UK. That was one of his positions. We also know that Shabana Mahmood's plan to introduce 15 years for migrants to wait before they get indefinite leave to remain. This afternoon, the House of Lords has ruled that this plan is unlawful, un-British, and the government should learn from what happened in highly skilled visa when they tried to do the same thing and the court ruled against them. Now, it looks like anyone that lives in the UK who is on the care workers visa, kindly ensure that they see this video because it looks like this is the best news ever. We know that Andy Burnham in the past argued that £700,000 should be certified to support migrants to claim benefit. We also know that he was one of the few politicians that criticized the current government when they introduced 20 years for refugees to get settled status in the UK. He said that is unfair. Remember, Andy Burnham himself is married to a Dutch woman from the Netherlands. So Andy Burnham said, I will get a grip on small boats crossing. Those people that are coming to the UK through small boats, I will get a grip. But those that are already in the UK, we need to make the pathway for them to get indefinite leave to remain not too difficult for them. These are his views. The strongest supporter of Andy Burnham is Angela Rayner, the former Deputy Prime Minister, who comes from Manchester. She and Andy Burnham, they come from the same wing of the Labour Party, and they are very, very good friends. She was one of the first people that backed Andy Burnham to return back to Parliament. She's been arguing now she is set to return back to the cabinet as the next housing secretary when Andy Burnham becomes the next prime minister of this country. So can you imagine having Angela Rayner in cabinet with Andy Burnham? Imagine how the issue of 10 years or 15 years for indefinite leave to remain, the attention that is going to get this time. We also know that Angela Rayner last week made a bold comment when she said that the government planned to introduce 15 years for care workers to get indefinite leave to remain, that it is unfair, un-British. She was one of those that has been campaigning that it is wrong. We know that after she made that comment, Andy Burnham himself released a statement saying that the government should listen to Angela Rayner. That was after Angela Rayner said 15 years to get indefinite leave to remain is unfair. Andy Burnham was one of the few politicians that supported that. So you can see their views aligned when it comes to immigration for migrants already living in the UK. So if you know anyone who is already living in the UK, who doesn't have indefinite leave to remain, kindly ensure that they see this video. You can see how I'm sweating now because the heat in the UK today is killing. That is why you see me, I don't come up with my traditional custom made because the heat today is killing. Now, our sister, Kemi Badenoch, said, government, Labour, focus on defense, not welfare or migration. Focus on that defense. Don't talk about that. That is what Kemi want the government to talk about. We know that Andy Burnham has already said he is going to keep Shabana Mahmood as the Home Secretary. There was report in the media that they tried to move her to the Treasury, but she said, no, I want to stay. But Andy Burnham coming in, Shabana Mahmood, you're going to see a more compassionate, a more softer tone from her in the coming weeks when Andy Burnham becomes the Prime Minister of this country. So it is highly likely that indefinite leave to remain will not be 15 years. And we know for sure that the current system where care workers are tied to one employer, take my word, that is going to go, because we know that a lot of internal conversation that our sources are telling us, decision has already been made to make sure that care workers are not tied to one employer. So that would be good news for a lot of people from our community who wake up in the morning, they don't want to go to work, but they realize that despite the fact that their employers are bullying them, threatening them with deportation, but if they don't go to work, they will be deported or they will lose their stay in the UK. So they are still forced to go to work. Now let us look at the profile of this man, Andy Burnham. He was the former Culture and Health Secretary under Gordon Brown and Tony Blair. He's an old politician. He's a young man, but he's been in the game of politics for a long time. And we also know that Andy Burnham, Andy Burnham's views, you can see. Number one, Andy Burnham believes that he backs reducing legal and illegal migration, support stronger border enforcement, support reducing reliance on asylum hotel, support major immigration reform that is proposed by Shabana Mahmood, but there is a but. He's against creating a permanent temporary migrant class, just like that, which is something that Nigel Farage has proposed, that migrants will not be able to get indefinite leave to remain. But Andy Burnham said he's against that. Those who have come to this country, worked hard, contributed to the system, must be allowed to stay in the country long term if they want to. He's worried about making settlement excessively difficult. That is the 15 years route. Andy Burnham is concerned about policies that may undermine fairness for migrants already living in the UK. This one is very important. He's concerned about policies that may undermine fairness for migrants already living in the UK. So he doesn't want the government to change indefinite leave to remain for migrants that are already in the UK to 15 years. He's against that. Okay, we also know that Andy Burnham, this is a quote from Angela Rayner, a quote that she recently made. She said, and I quote, "Immigrants already living in the UK make an enormous contribution to the country." That is what she said recently. We know that Andy Burnham emphasized on fairness for legal migrants, also advocate protection for migrants. A pathway to settlement should be made easy for them, especially those already in the UK. Also support, he doesn't want retrospective change. He doesn't believe that if there is going to be a change, those that are already in this country should be exempted. That is something that you should be happy for. Support stronger integration, focus on purely, not just focus on enforcement, that people should be given the tool to be able to integrate. If you live in the UK, should be able to speak English, sound like the way Frank is sounding, make sure you're integrated, come to this country, make positive contribution to society. He's more willing to listen on migration. Here is something I want you to take from this video. Andy Burnham recently said, "We cannot talk about ending a settlement if we keep moving the goalposts." Now, what does that mean? You cannot talk about any settlement. Those who came to this country when it was 5 years to get indefinite leave to remain, you cannot say to them, "Oh, you guys are going to get indefinite leave to remain. It's going to cost the taxpayers money, and therefore we are going to change it." He said, no, that is wrong. They came, you have to honor the agreement that you had with them. It's not just migration that Andy Burnham's policy will benefit immigrants. We also know that yesterday he said, and I quote, that he is going to support plans to make it 15,570. That is the amount that you earn without paying any tax. The tax-free allowance threshold will remain £15,570. That is what you earn before you start. When you earn above that, that is when you start paying tax. So he's advocating for that policy. And imagine having Andy Burnham and Angela Rayner and other people in the same cabinet. These are people that have argued over the years that indefinite leave to remain should not be made 15 years for those already in the UK. Do you think that issue is likely to get more attention or less attention? Let me know what your views are in the comment section. Now that you've heard this, are you hopeful that if Andy Burnham becomes the Prime Minister in a few weeks' time, that he will be able to honor what he said? Or are you worried that politicians say things, but they are more concerned about opinion poll and he may change. Let me know what your views are in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. It takes a lot of work to do the research to bring out this information. Can you see how I'm sweating? We're working hard to make sure people stay informed. Don't forget to like and share. Peace and love. I'll see you soon.